Welcome back, children. In this edition, we'll be looking at profitability ratios. The first profitability ratio will start with this gross profit ratio. Gross profit ratio would a formula on the gross profit divided by sales or gross profit divided by revenue from operations. Gross profit enna அப்படினா revenue from operation minus cost of revenue from operations or cost of goods sold. Okay. All right, let's start. First question. Cash revenue from operations 4 lakh, credit revenue from operations 21 lakhs, revenue from operations return 1 lakh. Okay. Cost of revenue from operation. A very straightforward question. They've given you the cash revenue and credit revenue and revenue returns, basically sales returns. So you just add them. 25 lakhs minus 1 lakh of return will give you 24 lakhs as the revenue from operation. They're asking for GP ratio, for which you need the gross profit. So revenue from operation minus cost of revenue from operation, which is 19,20,000. 24 minus 480, 4,80,000 is a gross profit. So your this thing will be gross profit ratio will be 4,80,000 divided by 24 lakhs. That is gross profit divided by sales, and that would be 12 times 4, 240 will be 20, 1 by 5, 20%. All right. Next question. Compute gross profit ratio if revenue from operation is 3,25,000 and gross profit is 20%. In the second question, they given the gross profit and the gross profit as a percentage of cost. இந்த மாதிரி கொடுத்துனாங்க gross profit is 30% on cost அப்படின்னு கொடுத்தாங்கன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க. You assume cost to be 100. எதுல percentage apply பண்ணணுமோ it is 30% on cost. அப்ப காஸ்ட்ல தானே percentage apply பண்ணணும். அப்ப காஸ்ட் வந்து 100 assume பண்ணிக்கோங்க. அப்போ gross profit எவ்வளோ 100ல 30%, 30. அப்போ selling price or revenue from operation எவ்வளவு இருக்கும் 130. correct. Cost plus GP தானே revenue from operation. So 130. So 30% on cost அப்படின்னு சொல்லியிருக்காங்க. So உங்களுக்கு என்ன கொடுத்துருக்காங்க 3,25,000 they've given. 3,25,000 is revenue from operation. அதை மல்டிப்ளை பண்ணி எழுதிக்கோங்க. 3,25,000 divided by நம்ம அசம்ஷன்ல செல்லிங் பிரைஸ் வந்து என்னது 130 கீழே எழுதிக்கோங்க. எதை கண்டுபிடிக்கணும் நம்ம gross profit கண்டுபிடிக்கணும். So எதை கண்டுபிடிக்கணுமோ அது நம்ம அசம்ஷன்ல என்னவோ அதை மேல எழுதிக்கணும். So that will be 13 times போதான்னு பார்க்கலாமா. 2 13s are 26, 65, 5 13s are 65, 25,000. So 75,000 is our gross profit. So in the 75,000 divided by revenue from operation of 3,25,000. I think I'll let Google do the work. Excel do the work. 75,000 divided by 3,25,000 is 23.0769. So which is 23%. A is the correct answer. Understood, children? That is the third question. XYZ Limited earned a gross profit of 6 lakh during the year and its gross profit ratio is 30%. Thus its revenue from operation is. Okay, this is a very straightforward question. They've given the gross profit. So gross profit divided by revenue from operation into 100 is equal to 30%. So 6 lakh divided by 30 into 100 is equal to revenue from operation. So just cancel it. 30%. So 100 cancel. So 20 lakhs. 20 lakhs is your revenue from operation. Fourth question, a company's revenue from operation is 20 lakhs. Cost of revenue from operation is 14 lakh. Closing inventory is 50,000 and indirect expenses 2 lakh. The amount of gross profit on the basis of given information. I think they're asking for the gross profit ratio because they've given percentage and all. Revenue from operation is 20 lakh. Cost of revenue from operation is 14 lakh. So 6 lakhs is your gross profit. See how they're trying to confuse you in this question. This question looks very simple. And உங்களை எப்படி confuse பண்ண try பண்றாங்கன்னா closing inventories கொடுத்திருக்காங்க. Some people might think that opening stock plus closing minus closing stock அதெல்லாம் போடணும் அப்படின்னு. And they've not given direct expenses. They've given indirect expenses. Indirect expenses is not involved calculating of gross profit. And closing inventory நம்ம எப்போ consider பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னா cost of revenue from operation கொடுக்காத போது cost of revenue from operation கண்டுபிடிக்கிறதுக்காக opening stock less purchases minus closing stock போகும். But here they've given the cost of revenue from operation itself. That amount itself has been given. So in that case, you don't have to do it. Direct revenue from operation and the cost of revenue from operation culture, you'll get gross profit 6 lakhs divided by revenue from operation of 20 lakhs. Pota, you'll get the gross profit ratio. So 6 divided by 20 is 0.3, which is 0.35 because 0.3. So 0.3 is your revenue from gross profit ratio. Understood? Moving forward. Fifth question. The gross profit ratio of Gizma Limited is 20%. The company wants to decrease it. Gross profit ratio eppadi kureikalam? Purchase of goods in cash. That does not want to make any difference. Cash la purchase பண்ணாலும் சரி credit la purchase பண்ணாலும் சரி அது வந்து expense தான் gross profit calculate பண்றதுக்கு. Goods given as free samples. Okay, goods given as free samples can reduce gross profit or goods sold at profit will definitely not reduce. Goods stolen by staff. Goods stolen by staff also will not affect gross profit. Actually, this question is nonsense. 3 definitely is not the answer. 3 illam oru choice kuda irukku. But purchase of goods for cash, this is nonsense. This is a wrong question, my dear children. Ignore it. Sixth question, revenue from operation. Sales 6 lakh, gross profit 25% on cost. Gross profit ratio will be. எப்போ நான் என்ன சொல்லியிருக்கேன், gross profit வந்து percentage on cost போட்டாங்கன்னா you create an assumption box. So cost 100 வச்சுக்கோங்க. அப்போ gross profit வந்து 100ல 25% 25 அப்படின்னா selling price will be 125. Am I right, my dear children? அந்த assumption box போட்டுக்கோங்க. என்ன கொடுத்துருக்காங்களோ அதை எழுதுங்க. 6 lakh is given. 6 lakh is your revenue from operation. உங்க boxல revenue from operation என்ன 125. நீங்க கண்டுபிடிக்க வேண்டியது 25. Understood? Or இந்த 6 lakh கூட கண்டுபிடிக்க தேவையில்லை, gross profit கண்டுபிடிக்க தேவையில்லை. Gross profit is 25, selling price is 125 according to these terms and conditions. That will be 1 divided by 5. 1 divided by 5 is 20%. All that, my dear children. Moving forward, the dash indicates the percentage of each sales rupee remaining after the firm has paid for its good. Gross profit margin. அதாவது சேல்ஸ் பண்ணதுக்கு அப்புறம் எவ்வளவு பணம் மிச்சம் இருக்கும். ஜஸ்ட் சேல்ஸ் மட்டும் பண்ணிட்டு இன்டைரக்ட் எக்ஸ்பென்சஸ் பத்தி எல்லாம் பேசல. ஆஃப்டர் அதாவது பர்ச்சேஸ்க்கான காசெல்லாம் பே பண்ணதுக்கு அப்புறம் எவ்வளவு மிச்சம் இருக்கும்ன்றதை கண்டுபிடிக்கிறது gross profit. ஏன்னா ரெவென்யூ ஃப்ரம் ஆபரேஷன் மைனஸ் cost of goods sold, that is the direct expenses, is actually your gross profit. Understood? 8th, if revenue from operation is 6 lakh and cost of revenue from operation is 20%, in this we'll have to do the math. cost on the 100 assume பண்ணிக்கலாம் for the same reasons I mentioned earlier. If you don't remember, go and see. அப்போ gross profit வந்து 125 ஆயிரும். அப்போ selling price வந்து 120, I'm sorry 25 ஆயிரும். selling price வந்து 125 ஆயிரும். They are asking for the gross profit amount. அப்போ என்ன பண்ணணும், எது கொடுத்துருக்காங்களோ அதை மல்டிப்ளை பண்ணி எழுதுங்க. 6 lakhs கொடுத்துருக்காங்க. 6 lakhs is revenue from operation. நம்மளோட assumption boxல revenue from operation என்னது 125. So 125 கீழே எழுதுங்க. என்ன கேட்டிருக்காங்க, gross profit. நம்ம assumption boxல gross profit 25, அதை மேலே எழுதுங்க. இது வந்து 5 times போகும். இது வந்து 12 followed by 4 zeros. 1,20,000 is the correct answer. All right, children. Moving forward, a company's revenue from operation is 10 lakh. Cost of revenue from operation is 7 lakh. Closing in same kind of twist. Revenue from gross profit ratio கேட்டாங்கன்னா உனக்கு ரெண்டு இன்ஃபர்மேஷன் தேவை. revenue from operation minus cost of revenue from operation. So revenue from operation is 10 lakh. Cost of revenue from operation is 7 lakh. So gross profit will be 3 lakhs. Gross profit ratio is gross profit divided by revenue from operation, which is 30%. That's all. If revenue from operations rupees 3,20,000, gross profit is 80,000, gross profit ratio will be. Nice. This is a very straightforward question. Gross profit எவ்வளவுன்னு கொடுத்துட்டாங்க, revenue from operation எவ்வளவுன்னு கொடுத்துட்டாங்க. So gross profit ratio என்னது, gross profit divided by revenue from operation into 100. So that will be 1/4, 25%. All right. அடுத்து answer following I hate, really. Anyway, I mean, these questions I hate. Gross profit ratio will increase when increase in revenue from operation. 1A. 1A la ஒரே ஒரு choice இருக்கு A. So that is the correct answer. Afghan Limited has operating profit ratio of, okay, from gross profit ratio we're going to operating profit ratio. Here I need to tell you something. Revenue from operation linde you reduce direct cost of revenue from operation or direct expenses or cost of goods sold, you will get gross profit. From gross profit you reduce operating expenses or admin, selling and distribution expenses, you will get operating profit. From this you reduce non-operating expenses and add non-operating income, you will get net profit. Understood, children? Remember this, we'll require this to solve. This cost of revenue from operation plus operating expense are together called as operating cost. They're together called as operating cost. Understood, children? So revenue from operation minus cost of revenue from operations will give us gross profit. Gross profit minus operating expense will give us operating profit. Or revenue from operation minus operating cost will give us operating profit. Operating profit ratio is operating profit divided by revenue from operation. Operating ratio is operating cost divided by revenue from operation. Understood, children? All right. Afghan Limited has operating profit ratio of 20%. To maintain this ratio at 25%, so it wants to increase the operating profit ratio. What can you do? Reduce cost of revenue from operation. It's a good idea. If you reduce the cost of goods from operation, cost of revenue from operation, then your total operating cost comes down, because total operating cost is cost of revenue from operation plus operating expenses, and therefore your operating profit will increase. Increase the selling price of stock and trade. When you increase the selling price abdina, it is per unit thing. Okay, for 1 unit how much it is abdinradhu price. Sales abdina, it is a total amount of sales. Okay, so I sold 100 books for 10 rupees each abdina, selling price is 10 rupees, Sales is 1,000 rupees or revenue from operation is 1,000 rupees. Anyway, when you increase the selling price of a product, what happens? The total amount of sales will obviously go up. So total revenue from operation mala podu abdina, the operating profit will also increase. So second is also correct. If 1 and 2 are correct, it has to be all of the above. D. So, oh, C is also there. Increase selling price of stock and trade and to reduce cost of revenue. That is also, I think D is the correct answer. Okay. What we can call the difference between revenue from operation and operating profit. Operating cost. Revenue from operation minus operating cost is operating profit. So revenue from operation minus operating profit is operating cost. 14th one. Revenue from operations is 9 lakh. Gross profit 25% on cost. Operating expenses 90,000. Operating ratio will be. Okay, good. So here they've not given you the operating cost. They've only given you operating expenses. But you don't need that also. You need to find the gross profit and reduce it from operating expenses. Reduce operating expenses from that to find out the operating profit. Operating profit divided by revenue from operation will be your operating. Oh, they're asking for operating ratio. This is tricky. If you had thought of this as operating profit ratio, you'll get it wrong. Okay. See, operating ratio is operating cost divided by revenue from operation. Operating profit ratio is operating profit divided by revenue from operation. Operating cost na enna varum? Cost of revenue from operation and operating expenses. Operating expenses given. Cost of revenue from operation is indirectly given. Gross profit is 25% on cost. Abdina either 100 assume mano. Assume cost as 100. So gross profit will be 25. So what will be the sales? 125. Correct, Alia? They've given revenue from operation 9 lakh. Divided by this 9 lakh corresponds to sales 125. So you write 125. What do they want you to find out? They want you to find out the operating cost. That is the operating ratio. So operating cost, our assumption cost is 100. So you write 100. So this goes how many times? This 5 times of 25, 4 times of 25, 5 puchna. 18 followed by 4 zeros, 1,80,000, 1,80,000 into 4, 360, 720, 7,20,000. 7,20,000 is our cost of revenue from operation. To that you add operating expense of 90,000. You will get 8,10,000, which is your 8,10,000, which is your operating cost. So 8,10,000 operating cost divided by 9 lakh will give you the operating ratio. So %90 is the correct answer. I should have figured it out without Excel. Sad that I had to do Excel. Okay. 100 minus operating profit ratio is equal to, it's very simple, my dear children. Operating cost plus operating profit is equal to, I'll just arrive at it and show you. Okay. What is the operating cost? Operating ratio. It is operating cost divided by revenue from operation. What is operating profit ratio? Operating profit divided by revenue from operation. Operating cost divided by revenue from operation plus operating profit divided by revenue from operation is equal to how much? Operating cost plus operating profit is nothing but revenue from operation. So revenue from operation divided by revenue from operation is equal to 1. Understood? So this is equal to 1. Understood? In percentage terms, it is 100. So 100 minus operating profit ratio will give you operating cost ratio. 100 minus operating cost ratio will give you operating profit ratio. 100 minus operating profit ratio will give you operating ratio. Understood, children? Very simple. Moving forward. calculating operating ratio. I think the right word is calculate. Anyway, cost of revenue from operation is 50,000. Revenue from operation is 1,50,000 and operating expenses 20,000. Operating ratio requires the formula for operating ratio is operating cost divided by revenue from operation. Operating cost in this case is cost of revenue from operation of 50,000 plus operating expenses of 20,000. So that is 70,000. So it will be 70,000 divided by 1,50,000. Don't be scared, my dear children. Such funny numbers will not be given in CBSE. Easier divide exam most I don't know, these guys can do anything. 46.7% is the correct answer. Moving forward, my dear children, operating ratio is operating cost divided by revenue from operation. Operating cost and cost of revenue from operation plus operating expense divided by revenue from operation. So answer is C. 18th question. The objective of computing operating ratios is to assess the operational efficiency of the business. Usually turnover ratios are compute the operational efficiency of the business. It shows a percentage of revenue from operation that is absorbed by the cost of revenue from operation and ops. That is true. Operating expense is basically the operating ratio is basically the total cost that was used up for carrying out the operations of the business, and therefore reason is true, assertion is wrong. So D is the correct answer. 19th, operating ratio establishes a relation between operating profit and revenue from operation. No, operating ratio establishes a relationship between operating cost and revenue from operation. So A is false. Operating ratio, so if A is false, there is only one choice, which is D. Net profit can be greater than operating profit when net profit operating profit oda எப்போ அதிகமா இருக்க வாய்ப்பு இருக்கு. இப்போ அது புரிஞ்சுக்கிறதுக்காக நெட் ப்ராஃபிட்டுக்கு நம்ம எப்படி ஆப்ரேட்டிங் ப்ராஃபிட்ல இருந்து அரைவ் பண்ணுவோம். ஆப்ரேட்டிங் ப்ராஃபிட் மைனஸ் நான் ஆப்ரேட்டிங் எக்ஸ்பென்சஸ் plus non-operating income will give us net profit. So when it can be non-operating income is more than non-operating expense அப்படின்ற பட்சத்துல cost of revenue from operation is more than operating expense, doesn't matter, அதெல்லாம் மேலேயே முடிஞ்சு போயிடும். Operating expenses are more than non-operating expense, doesn't matter, and operating expenses இங்கேயே முடிஞ்சு போயிடும். Non-operating expenses are more than non-operating income. When that happens, there will be a negative number here, and operating profit ratio will get reduced and net profit will happen. Non-operating expenses are less than non-operating income. When non-operating expenses are less than non-operating income, non-operating income is more. The number that gets added to operating profit ratio, operating profit is more compared to the number that is getting reduced from it, and therefore that is the case when net profit will be greater than operating profit. The numbers which you putting in easier. If it was class, I would have done that. Just solving problems. 100 minus operating profit ratio is equal to operating ratio. Already explained. Operating ratio is already explained. It is usually accepted fact that lower this ratio, the better will be the margin of operating profit on revenue from operation. Okay. In the ratio கம்மியா இருந்தா operating profit ratio அதிகமா இருக்கும். We all know that operating profit ratio plus operating ratio is equal to 100. So அப்போ operating profit ratio அதிகமா இருக்கும்னா இது கம்மியா இருக்கணும். இது அதிகமா இருக்கும்னா இது கம்மியா இருக்கும். So operating profit ratio அதிகமா இருக்கணும்னா operating ratio அதிகமா இருக்கணும். Simple maths, my dear children. If you don't understand, please comment. Employee benefit expenses, depreciation on fixed assets, office and administrative expense, selling and distribution expense, discount, bad debt interest, termed as operating expenses, my dear children. Revenue from operations, 6 lakh gross profit, 20%, office expenses 30,000, selling expenses 48. Calculate operating ratio. Operating ratio is cost of revenue from operation plus operating expense. Operating expenses in an office expense 30,000, selling expense 48,000. So total operating expense on the 78,000. Cost of revenue from operation kudukla, but revenue from operation gross profit ratio kuduthirukanga. 6 lakh revenue from operation like 20% gross profit na 80% na cost of revenue from operation. Purida 6 lakh into 80 by 100. Putting in 4,80,000 varum. So 4,80,000 add panna 0 0 0 8 15 1 5,58,000 is our operating cost. Operating expense plus cost of revenue from operation. Operating cost divided by revenue from operation will give the answer. So 0.93%, 93% is the correct answer. 26 operating ratio is profitability ratio. A. 27 which of the following item is taken as numerator in calculating operating ratio? Operating ratio calculate pandradhukku operating cost will be taken as the numerator. Hi children, we have very few operating profit ratio questions. I think we can solve it right away. Total revenue from operation is 15 lakh, cost of revenue from operation 9 lakh, and operating expense 2,25,000. Operating ratio will be simple. Operating ratio operating expense plus cost of revenue from operation divided by revenue from operation. Operating expenses 2,25,000, cost of revenue from operation is 9 lakh, divided by revenue from operation is 15 lakh. So that's basically 11,00,000 divided by 15 lakhs. Which is 75%. So A is the correct answer. 29 question, from the following information calculate operating ratio. Revenue from operation, rate of gross profit on cost, selling price, administrative. So these are operating expenses. They've not given the cost of revenue from operation. This is the gross profit ratio. 60% of revenue from operation is simple. Gross profit, the rate of gross profit is given on cost. Cost is equal to 100, gross profit 40. Sales is equal to 140. Understood, children? So 6,30,000 is the revenue from operation given. The corresponding number in our assumption is 140. 140 potache. And we need to find the cost of revenue from operation to find the operating ratio. So cost of revenue from operation is 100. So another malady. So this 57. This is 9 times followed by 3 zeros. 45 followed by 4 zeros. 4,50,000. 4,50,000 is my cost of revenue from operation plus my operating expenses are 22,500. These two put together 22,500. So that will be 4,72,500. So 4,72,500 divided by 6,30,000. Again, 75% is the answer, my dear children. Easy, no? Difference between operating cost and operating profit is Difference between operating cost and operating profit is what? Operating expense and operating cost and operating expenses. Okay. I'll write it down. Cost of revenue from operation plus operating expense is equal to operating cost. Difference between operating cost and operating expense will be cost of revenue from operation. Understood, children? In the following information, calculate operating ratio, cost of revenue from operation, 4 lakh, operating expenses. Very, very straightforward question. They've given you the cost of revenue from operation, which is 4 lakh, plus operating expenses 55,000, and the revenue from operation is 6 lakh 50. So both of them added divided by revenue from operation will give you the operating expense, which is 70%. Understood, children? Moving forward, if net revenue from operation of a firm, net revenue from operation of a firm are 15 lakh, okay, so sales is 15 lakh, gross profit is 9 lakh, operating expenses are 75,000. The operating profit ratio will be, they're asking for the operating profit ratio. So all you have to do is gross profit you reduce operating expense of 75,000, you'll get 8,25,000. The operating profit, 8,25,000, the operating profit divided by revenue from operation will give you the operating profit ratio. See, the other day, one of our students had commented that, no, sir, these questions are easy. They don't ask these questions in exams. No, they ask these questions in exams. They look easy because I tell the formula right away. In case you did not know the formula, this question will be very difficult for you to solve. So after listening to this, I want you to actually practice these problems yourself and see if you're able to do it in as much time as I am doing it. If you don't know the formula, if you don't know the fact that it's revenue from operation minus cost of revenue is gross profit minus operating expenses, operating profit. If you don't know all these things, it's kind of difficult to solve these problems. Understood, children? We have 2 questions of return on investment, and then we'll close this video. Before we solve return on investment problems, the formula for return on investment we need to know, and the return on investment formula is profit before interest and tax divided by capital employed. Capital employed is equal to debt plus equity. Profit before interest and tax is, they've given you the profit after tax. You need to add back tax and interest. All right, let's solve the problem. We have question number 33. From the following information, calculate return on investment. Net profit after interest and tax they've given. 10% debentures have been given. Tax at the rate of 10%. Capital employed is 26 lakhs. So they've given the denominator directly, which is 26 lakhs. We need to find the numerator, which is profit before interest and tax. Profit before interest and tax interest kalichingana, you will get profit before tax. Tax kalicha, we will get profit after tax. So that only has been given. Profit after interest and tax 4,50,000. அப்போ டாக்ஸ் என்னன்னு கண்டுபிடிச்சு அதை ஆட் பேக் பண்ணா ப்ராஃபிட் பிஃபோர் டாக்ஸ் கிடைக்கும். அப்புறம் இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் என்ன கழிச்சு அதை ஆட் பேக் பண்ணா ப்ராஃபிட் பிஃபோர் இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் அண்ட் டாக்ஸ் கிடைக்கும். இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் எவ்வளோன்றது ரொம்ப சிம்பிள். 10% டிபென்ச்சர்ஸ் 15 லேக்னு சொல்லியிருக்காங்க. அப்போ 15 lakh into 10% ரேட் ஆஃப் இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் இஸ் தி இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட். தட் வில் பி 1,50,000. இப்போ டாக்ஸ் எவ்வளோன்னு கண்டுபிடிக்கணும். டாக்ஸ்ன்றது என்னது? 10% ஆன் ப்ராஃபிட் பிஃபோர் டாக்ஸ். டாக்ஸ் அட் தி ரேட் ஆஃப் 10% வாங்க. இந்த ப்ராஃபிட் பிஃபோர் டாக்ஸ் என்ன இருக்குமோ அதுல 10%. ஸோ ப்ராஃபிட் பிஃபோர் டாக்ஸ் இஸ் ஈக்குவல் டு 100ன்னு அசியூம் பண்ணா டாக்ஸ் இஸ் ஈக்குவல் டு 10. ஸோ ப்ராஃபிட் ஆஃப்டர் டாக்ஸ் வில் பி 90. They've given us profit after tax 4,50,000. This 4,50,000 is 90. What do we have to find out? We need to find out profit before tax. So that is 100. So that will be 5 lakh. And tax will be 50,000. 5 lakh 10%. The profit before interest and tax in profit before tax plus interest of 1,50,000, which is 6,50,000. Return on investment formula another profit before interest and tax 6,50,000 divided by 26 lakhs. So that will be 25%, my dear children. All right, moving forward. 34. From the following information, calculate return on investment. Net profit, same kind of question, my dear children. Net profit after interest and taxes 4,05,000, 9% debentures, 15 lakh, tax at the rate of 10%. Capital employed has been given. So denominator is given, capital employed 3 lakhs. Even if it is not given, it is debt plus equity. And net profit before interest and tax. So we need profit before interest and tax. So interest will give you profit before tax minus tax will give you profit after tax. They've given us profit after tax of 4,05,000. Tax we need to calculate. Tax is 10% on profit before tax. We'll assume profit before tax is 100. So tax will be 10 and profit after tax will be 90. So 4,05,000 is profit after tax. So it is 90. Need to find 100. So this will get divided by 9 definitely. So 4 times 36. 5 times 45 followed by 3 zeros. So 4,50,000 is your 4,50,000 is your profit before tax, and 45,000 is your tax, which is not relevant here, but anyway. And interest is 15 lakh la 9%. So it's 15 lakh into 9%. 15 into 9 evlo 5 4 135 followed by 3 zeros. So 1,35,000 is your interest. So profit before interest and tax will be 4,50,000 plus 1,35,000, 5,85,000. So 5,85,000. So 5,85,000 for a capital employed of 3 lakh. I think this is 30 lakhs. 30 lakhs. Abhi pota answer varum nenikra. Yes. So 5,85,000 divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 19.5. Yeah. 5,85,000 by 3 lakh is not correct. They missed 1 zero in the question. All right, children, with that, we've come to the end of profitability ratios related questions, and we have some questions that are general in nature, in which a lot of theory questions in which they ask about all the ratios. So if we solve all the generic questions in the next video, we'll be only left with the case study, which I'll take up later. Okay. All right, children, you people have fun. All the best for your exams. Continue preparing. You can do it. Share, subscribe. Bye.